G'day guys, how's it going? My name is CJ and today we're going to be talking about 7s. More specifically, the Samsung Galaxy S7, the Galaxy Note 7 and Android 7.0 Nougat. So anyone who has owned Samsung Galaxy phones in the past know that Samsung isn't exactly the best at keeping their phones updated. And that's no different with the S7. I mean, Android 7.0 Nougat had already been released back in September with the LG V20, and then followed by the Google Pixel in October. Samsung has tried to mitigate this with a Nougat beta program, but just like its name, 1, it's beta software, and 2, it was only available in certain countries, so Aussies like myself weren't invited to the party. Now fast forward 6 months and finally we've been invited to the party and the update has finally dropped in the last week. There are a number of tweaks and improvements to both its performance and user interface, so I was keen as beans to try it out. Let's get started. Now when speaking broadly about the updates between Marshmallow and Nougat, there's really no outwardly obvious changes. There are a few aesthetic tweaks, but most of it's mainly under the hood. And this is especially obvious when you compare the feature sets that's in Android Nougat and the features that we'd already seen in Samsung phones for the last few years. So to start off, the most obvious changes are going to be aesthetic. The most notable being the introduction of Samsung's Grace UX that was first seen in the Note 7. There's been some updates to the system icons, and the Samsung launcher has been made a little bit cleaner, it handles folders a little bit differently, but the overall experience is pretty similar. And that's to say, for me, it's not my cup of tea, and I changed back to the Nova launcher pretty soon after. The system font that's used in all of Samsung's apps and say the settings panel has been changed to a more condensed and bold looking format that we saw back in the Note 7. And the settings menu has been pared down and simplified. The notifications shade is very similar to the one that you'd see on the Google Pixel, with smaller, subtle icons to optimize screen real estate. You can still swipe down with 2 fingers or swipe down twice in order to reach the extended quick settings. Although one small annoyance I have with the change is that you no longer see the brightness slider when you slide down with 1 finger on the notification shade, so it's just a little bit harder to quickly change your brightness. Notifications themselves look pretty similar to their Marshmallow counterparts, but there's more features baked into them. Notifications are now bundled depending on apps rather than showing them chronologically, which can eventually become a really long, messy list. And now there are also more options to interact with them right from the get-go, so you can quick reply, you can archive or delete emails, etc. Another important update that's been made to this phone, and is one that I think is really important, is a new camera user interface. This is the same interface that shipped with the Note 7, and it's one that's based primarily on gestures. And because of this, it makes handling it with one hand a complete cinch. Swipe right when you want to get to filters, swipe left if you want to get to more settings, swipe down if you want to get back to selfie mode, swipe back to change back. Overall, a really intuitive way of using your camera, and combine this with the double tap to launch the camera makes it really easy for you to get that shot when you need to. Now one of the key improvements in Marshmallow was the introduction of a feature called Doze. So that was basically a battery management feature that put various apps to sleep when you weren't using your phone for an extended period of time, so that say when you left it on a desk or when you were sleeping at night. So Nougat goes one step further with Doze on the go, and this has been introduced into the S7 as well. Basically you get battery management all throughout the day on the go. So when there are periods where you're not using the phone, say when it's in your pocket, then Android is using its intelligence to smartly switch off various apps that don't need certain features, and then gradually during the day, the more you don't use an app, the more deeper sleep it goes into and the more battery it saves. And when you combine this with Samsung's own battery management software, you're looking at getting some really good battery life in this update. To push battery life even further, the S7 also now has a feature that was seen in the Note 7, and that was the ability to change screen resolution. Before, you didn't have any options of changing your screen's resolution, and it was always running at the full Quad HD resolution. Now though, you have the option of changing it to either a 1080p or 720p resolution. What that means is there's a lower resolution for your GPU to work with, and the result, better battery life. And finally, the device management option that was in the Note 7 has been passed on to the S7 as well. So basically, it's a simple piece of software that just analyzes the phone, sees what background tasks can be stopped, sees what sort of caches can be cleared, and just does it for you. Now finally, I want to take this quick opportunity to give a quick shout out to various features that I think are quite underrated and people probably wouldn't think too much about. The first one is screen zoom and font customization. Now with the Nougat update, you can change both the screen real estate and also the size of the font independently. So for me, I like it when my system icons and characteristics are all nice and small. I think it gives it a much cleaner look, but then I don't want to be squinting at my phone all the time or sticking it right up towards my face in order to read messages or SMSs. So this way I can have my small system icons but with normal sized font, so I can get the best of both worlds. Now the next thing is the blue light filter. This kind of feature didn't really go mainstream until a year or so ago when iOS introduced night shift into their iPhone. But those that have been using an app called Flux over the last decade or so know that if you filter out blue light from your screens or your laptops and using them at night, it has shown some evidence to improve sleep, and the orange hue also makes it easier on your eyes when you're using it at night so that it causes less strain, and you can get more done during the night as well. And finally, quick switching between recent apps. With just a double tap of the multitasking button, you can jump between two apps really quickly, and I find that really useful, especially when, say, you're on the go and you need to swap between messaging or looking up some sort of information and switching back to, say, Google Maps really quickly. So with a double tap, switches seamlessly back to the most recently used app. Easy. I don't know why this feature wasn't in before, but it's really useful and really underrated. Alright, well that's been it. There are a ton of features that have been baked into this phone that I haven't gone over, but overall, if you haven't already updated the phone, be sure to spam that software update button and get it done, because it'll give your phone a fresh lick of paint, a lease of new life, especially given that phones, even these kind of phones, tend to start showing its age within a year of its life. So, have you updated to Nougat yet? What are your favourite features? Be sure to let me know in the comments section below. As always, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing. Thanks for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Say good day, mum, for me. Cheers.